I want to start off this video by saying that my videos should be thought of as entertainment. There's always a button to click in, primarily most of them, I should, when I go through the process of logging the video, you got to keep an account. I do this by myself. I don't have someone else whose task it is to overlook these things, and sometimes I have other more important things to do, frankly, or more directly associated with my immediate survival needs, So I should always make sure to check whether each video is entertainment. Most of them are, though, whether comedy or otherwise. And the reason I say that is it shouldn't be thought of as a news source, at least. Like, if some of them may be historical and this and that, but I gotta say entertainment overall, because the fact of the matter is I don't have enough power over my creation. I don't have power over making sure that what you receive is exactly what I intend, okay? Nor do I have people out in the field gathering information for me. So the matter of having the facts that come into me be absolute, and the matter of me communicating those facts back out to you as I intend, both these lines of connection, there's a potential for them to be incorrect. So I'm still grateful to the platform for allowing something to go out there. It gives me some sort of, at least, belief that I'm communicating with people and having that belief in a connection somewhere. So proceed with that, understanding that to think of it basically as entertainment. And if that entertainment has to be humor at how sloppily they're thrown together, well, I hope there's more to it than that. I hope you find some other humor and at least a little amount of wit or some insight that you might not have had. But even to my own children who hear my videos, I want to say, think of these as entertainment. Think of, if you know me, you have to meet me in person and discuss the back and forth communication, question and answer like that. Then you can know me, because one thing that you'll find very few people deny, I'm a very honest person. I will choose to not answer a question before I'll choose to lie about it. So that's not, but that still being said, I can be incorrect. And so there you go. Anyhow, that being said, what this video here is about was sort of just the information that came in to me today, and the information and my insights as far as that information goes. So the first information that I took in today online was through the Flagrant podcast. And on Flagrant today they talked about the Brittany Griner prisoner exchange. They also talked about soccer. And they also have some kind of informative stuff about North African countries that I don't know much about, like Morocco, I believe. I didn't even, to be honest with you, I couldn't pinpoint it on a map, but they were talking about some, information as far as that stuff goes. And the good thing about the Flagrant podcast is that there's a pretty diverse assortment of people in that, which is good. I think that's always good to have, a range of people's concepts, especially in this day and age that we are kind of a global community. So having ethnic diversity and diversity of region all talking about things together always adds for, when people can sit down and agree to disagree about stuff and laugh with each other about their viewpoints on stuff. That's a very healthy way to get over and get past a lot of disagreements and just a crisis of life, because how often is sometimes things set in pockets of information, misinformation, or misconceptions rather, can muster if you're closed off from a nice flowing stream that circulates, like, think of it as like stagnant water. If it sits in a mud puddle, bacteria just multiplies there. But if it's an open stream where, fresh water washes through, coming down from the channels of the rain filtering system, evaporation, what evaporates up doesn't take the bacteria and stuff up with it. So when it comes back down, the big cycle, and it's all, built into the beautiful network of nature that we see. And seeing what we see in nature, if we think of that and metaphorically transfer that into our thought process, you see how that works. That by staying open to the flow of the information as it comes back around to you, it's healthy and good for everyone. So that was the Andrew Schulz podcast. Then after that was changed on to Legion of Skanks podcast. That is one with Louis J. Gomez. I became familiar with him through the RAP podcast, the Real Ass Podcast is what those letters stand for. I got into that basically. I really like Zach Amico. I find Zach Amico entertaining. But anyhow, when the Legion of Skanks podcast today, it wasn't, they were doing it over Zoom or Skype or something, like that, where they're all in different locations and they're doing the videos. So that sometimes takes away from it a little bit, although those guys are funny and they have an interesting relationship with each other. So it wasn't a real compelling show, to be honest with you, today, because a lot of it was videos there that you, if you're a member of the Gas Network and subscribe to their channel, you see the videos, but otherwise when it's shown on YouTube, you're just hearing them discuss the videos. So for that reason, they wasn't super compelling to me. I also watched Rick Glassman's appearance on The Fighter and the Kid. Now, Rick Glassman has his own podcast called Take Your Shoes Off, and he is a very creative character. I think he's a lot like me in a way. I don't know that he'd like hearing that, or anybody else would agree upon that, but I think the fact of the matter is he's dwelt in his own mind and his own ideas, that he's made his ideas in life entertaining to himself, even if nobody else is around. And that makes for a very interesting character to a degree, whether he's, he does a good job making that interesting to himself character interesting to other people too, although sometimes it doesn't necessarily allow for the people who are sharing the podcast with him to really get their thing in there the way they want to. But they know that going in, that nobody has them on their podcast by accident. And Brendan and Brian were both very good sports, because you have to be, because Rick is very aggressive with his wit. So that was entertaining, to say the least. Then I watched the Zach Amico's Midnight Spook Show podcast, which that to me is always kind of refreshing, because Zach Amico's The Midnight Spook Show is him sitting down with one or two people and watching, usually three, him and two others, watching a movie, an old B horror movie most of the time, and just kind of chatting over it, but the movie plays in the corner, and so you can take in a bit of the movie, and it's always pretty entertaining, because Zach has really interesting taste, and it's kind of refreshing. Sometimes it's a nice, relaxing, unwind podcast, because it's kind of a break from the news sometimes, and not to, because to me, for a lot of what I take in as news, and they're not putting it out there as news, but information and entertainment, it's news to me. Sometimes they talk about kind of serious issues, even on comedic podcast, and so, but with the Midnight Spook Show, that's not the case. It's usually just kind of interesting things about the movie, and Zach telling interesting stories and stuff like that, and his guests telling interesting stories. So that's all really the information I took in today from the internet. And so not really a whole lot of information as far as information goes I'm putting out in this, but information sources and the way I take it in, I guess, is what's come out of this. I didn't say anything funny. Sorry about that. And see, one thing says here, I put a note to reflect on Santino versus Louis C.K., which is, okay, no, I know what I was thinking there. Santino is the one person I saw really handle Rick Glassman well and get his thing in there good. When Rick Glassman went on Santino's podcast, Santino managed to have his wit. I got to say it sort of outsmart Rick Glassman at times. And the thing about that is that on Fighter and the Kid today, Rick Glassman mentioned that he'd worked with Santino together in a podcast and liked it. So that goes to show that Rick's a good sport and appreciates it when the other podcasters step up to the plate. So Brian and Brendan, keep that in mind, because next time when he comes back, you may have to think from now till the next time he comes back to get some jokes in on him, because that man is a very smart man and he's a good sport, so he'll appreciate the humor if you're able to do that. And I'll appreciate it too, because that's what it's all about, the give and take, and all in good sportsmanship with the humor. And the reason I wrote down here verse Louis C.K. was really thinking the Santino versus Rick Glassman and wit. The Louis C.K. thing relates to Patrice O'Neal. The first time I saw Patrice O'Neal and Louis C.K. both as guests heard, I should say, on the O&A show, radio show, with Opie and Anthony and Jim Norton. I'm not sure if Jim Norton was there for those, but because lots of times when Patrice sat in, it was because Jim was out of town. Not always, though. Sometimes they were both there. Anyhow, with Louis there, the first time Patrice and Louis were together. Now, on that podcast, on that radio show, everybody dogged each other. I say podcast because in a lot of ways, I don't really differentiate between it and the modern podcast, because to a large degree, they set the groundwork for the modern comedic podcast. And, that's a little bit of history, because I do like the history of things and the way stories connect together, and that's what you get there. You can hear where I'm located. I'm in rural West Virginia, and that was a big old truck just went by my window, which is cracked right now to let a little fresh air in here. So anyhow, with the Louis C.K. and the Patrice O'Neal, the first time they both got together, both of them very clever comedians, but Louis dominated him. I mean, he really got in all the jokes with Patrice, and that's rare with Patrice. But Patrice, the next time they were both there together, I don't know if Patrice thought between the time they left the studio that day and the next time they came back, but the next time Patrice was ready, and he got the better of Louis. So that goes to show that there is always the rematch, and all in good sportsmanship and all for the benefit of the viewer and listener. And good night.